save. Oh, you gotta get a shot here. Final seconds. Bryant for the win.
We are back with another special episode on the podcast today. Got my good friend, Sean Kanungo. Sean, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself to everyone real quick?
Well, first of all, I want to say I love the intro music. My man Mazin and you guys collaborate on that. I love it. I love the podcast. And before I introduce myself, do this man a favor. Subscribe to him on the podcast, Apple, iTunes, wherever you are. I don't have that. I can't leave a rating and review. I'm only on Spotify. So just give this man some love because he's creating some amazing content. My name is Sean Kanungo. A lot of people call me sort of an innovation strategist, disruption strategist. I worked at Deloitte for 12 years, helping organizations with strategy, innovation. That's my passion. Right now, my passion is like taking organizations, applying new business models, new technologies. And so we're doing some really cool things. We've been like doing all these like keynotes and we're like shooting this in a theater. I forgot I was on camera for a second. We've been shooting this in a theater. And you're basically in our like home right now. Like this is where we've been shooting all our stuff. And the reason why we've been shooting it here is because the lighting is amazing, the acoustics are awesome, and it just creates an amazing visual. Like it creates visual weight.
This gives you that like the clarity of like the ultimate respect. When I see you on social media and I see you sitting in this theater filming content, it's like, who is this guy? How do you get this theater, and how big is he?
Well, that's the and it is a bit of a flex, but I always say this when it comes to content is that I could be saying the same thing in my house, and it would look like an ISIS hostage video, or I could say the same content, and I could be here.
Yeah.
And for some reason, it's fucked up. Can't swear on this.
You can do whatever you want here.
It's fucked up, but for some reason, the weight of what I'm saying here. And by the way, the weight that you're gonna be dropping some bombs in here too. It's gonna resonate more. I don't know what it is. I'm sorry, but that's just the way.
It's the way it is.
Our mind works. And the other thing is that, I think this gives us an opportunity to experiment, try new ways of doing content, just try to innovate how content is delivered.
Exactly.
And now that we're in a virtual digital world, I think it's even more important.
You basically took up multiple steps on the ladder in terms of how to make content, how to make and create content. And I think even last time you told me that people in your industry had noticed when you were doing your keynotes, like, oh, Sean like stepped it up, because most people are probably just doing it, like you said, in their house or in their office, but you went a step above to set yourself out from the industry.
Well, I think that's the whole thing about innovation is how do you differentiate yourself? How do you become unique, memorable, magical? Like how can you really differentiate yourself? So, for me, honestly, when everything went virtual, when everything went digital, this was like a home game because, with Mo and Mazin and the team, like we've been doing this video stuff for years and just cracking, experimenting, finding our rhythm. And honestly, like when the pandemic happened and we're like, okay, so how do we create content during a pandemic? I was just like, oh, let's go. Like we're in a home game.
This is the best time to do it.
Totally.
So let me ask you this question just to give some more context to the listeners, and because you are the special in this area. You're a disruption speaker, innovation disruption speaker. How do you classify that to the average person? Like, what does that mean to innovate, to be disruptive in industry or a market?
Yeah, I think a lot of people, people throw around innovation and disruption loosely, and the definition has changed over time, and people apply it in different ways. To me, innovation is about creating value in new ways. So coming up with new ideas that actually creates value. Mm-hmm. It's very different from creativity, where you're like trying different things, but it doesn't add value. Like I could paint something, it could be very creative, but maybe it won't add any value. Innovation is about creating value. Disruption is about, somebody, to put it very simply, and I'm not going to use the Clay Christensen and model and talk about that, but very simply, somebody coming into your space and fundamentally changing the status quo, doing something so transformative around innovation that it literally changes the trajectory of that industry. It puts a dent in it. It changes the paradigm. Usually disruption comes out of nowhere. It starts with something small, and then it grows into something bigger that now it's like the market leader. it changes everything. And there's another actually definition, which is not disruption, but it's actually creating, people call it blue ocean, but it's it's actually creating a new category, which is actually not disruption, but it's like something new is created that has never been created before. Well, disruption is like taking away an existing market, like something comes in and you're like taking away competitors, while creating a brand new market is like creating something that's brand new, that's never been created. Right. Like, for example, is like, I love using Giphy, for example. Giphy is like making GIFs or GIFs.
Yep.
Like, that's something that never was created before. It's a new type of communication medium. Mm-hmm. It's not disruptive. It's literally a new market. So that's what I would say, like, the difference between innovation, disruption, and creating new markets.
So is it safe to say that innovation leads to disruption? Or when something, an innovative product comes up, that's going to cause disruption?
Absolutely. Innovation does cause disruption. Innovation, not every single innovation causes disruption, but there are certain innovators and innovations that are so transformative that they become disruptors.
Right. Okay, so that makes sense. So there's a few things I want to talk to you about, different segments, different topics, but they all intertwine into innovation and disruption. Yeah. So the first one I want to talk about, which is something I'm in heavily, the audience knows they want to know more about, is e-commerce.
Yes.
So before I kind of dive into my thoughts, I just want to hear what you think about e-commerce.
Oh,
have you been in the market at all? Are you doing anything involved with it? Any talks with it?
So definitely have been helping and advising some companies in the e-commerce space. And here's my hot take around e-commerce. It is a mirage. E-commerce has obviously been accelerated because of the pandemic. Mm-hmm. Everybody's at home trying to buy stuff online. And obviously the pickup has been unbelievable. The reason why I say it's a mirage, and a bit of a mirage, to be honest with you, is because I don't think anybody has really figured out the true economics of e-commerce and what it takes to build like an e-commerce company. Now, I'd love to get your take on it because you're building something super disruptive and super cool around e-commerce. But I think what we've seen around the trends around e-commerce that we've seen is people have followed this certain playbook, and we can talk about e-commerce dropshippers and whatnot. But the playbook is this: find a product. You don't even have to make the product. Get a product from like China. Create an Instagram account. Yeah. Run Facebook and Instagram ads related to the product. Get somebody else to do the shipping and logistics. Create a Shopify website. And push people from your Instagram ads to Shopify, and run this over and over again,
and just get sales,
and get sales, and that's the playbook. Maybe even a couple of years ago, and it's running its course because, of course, as you know better than anybody, the cost per acquisition using Facebook or Instagram or any of those things have like. Facebook knows this, so they like it's it's so much more expensive. And if you look actually the original e-commerce, what I would say the DTC companies that basically started this movement, you look at like guys like Warby Parker, Casper. What's funny is that now they've gone brick and mortar. All these e-commerce companies that were digital natives have now opened up their brick and mortar stores, and I think it's part of the reason is because they've understand it. In order to stay relevant, in order to stay sticky with customers, you need an in-person experience. And so that's wild, right? Yeah. You had all these companies, like the digital-only companies, starting brick and mortar. And so I think part of the mirage is that, number one, I think the economics are flawed. I mean, we could talk about Wayfair and too. I mean, I don't think they've even figured out the economics of it. And the other thing is that all the e-commerce companies, the pure e-commerce companies, are not going brick and mortar. But love to get your take on it.
I actually love how you just went on a rant.
Sorry.
Yeah. No, because like everything you said is like very like real. And the example of using ND is perfect. Online, brick and mortar store.
I didn't use ND, but yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. But ND is
Casper, I believe.
Yeah, Casper.
Similar.
So ND, for example, is a great example of a company that got sold. I think I don't know if they were able to figure out the economics, right? But
yeah, I think so. And another example I use for like people to relate more with is Gymshark. So they're doing the same thing. And the reason they got so big was influencer marketing, but also because they flipped the switch on brick and mortar where they started doing experiences all over the world.
Love that.
So they're opening up pop-up shops, but massive ones with big celebrities and big influencers. And they were kind of navigating. And now, similar to Lululemon, how Lululemon's opening up a gym in their new stores in the States, Gymshark built this massive $1 million gym where you can buy the merch. You can come work out. You get to meet your favorite Instagram celebrities and do all these in-house events. So it's interesting how you said that, because a lot of people don't, I think, realize that in terms, a lot of these brands start online, and now to find relevance and to keep connecting, they're having to build these, experiences or brick and mortar stores.
Yeah. Well, by the way, when I say e-commerce, I should have also clarified that when I was talking about the playbook and all that kind of stuff, I was talking specifically around direct-to-consumer DTC brands. Now, the reason why I didn't mention like Amazon and that's a different conversation, because I think it's not a different conversation. It's just it's a very broad, e-commerce is such a broad thing, right? Everything is almost e-commerce.
Everything.
What is e-commerce?
Yeah.
Selling something online. That's like everything.
Yeah.
But so, I know you have a unique perspective on because you're building basically a DTC company, but very much, the in-person experience, your company was basically built in person.
Yeah.
And now you're building something on top of it, which I think is like the way to go.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously it depends like who you have, like in the lab, for example, it's all built around dev, and it's all built around the allure of training with dev.
And that's a very in-person experiential
exactly
piece to it.
Exactly. So like obviously you have the online and stuff, but what people want is they want the camps, they want to be with him. And once you have them in that experience, like you said, we just built clothing, we built gaming, we built all this stuff on top of it.
Honestly, I think that's the best way. It's literally the reverse how everyone wants to do it.
Yeah.
Because everybody wants to start digital first and then create offline.
Yeah.
While you created offline and you're building DTC, you're building an e-commerce platform on top of it.
Yeah.
Which is what everyone wants to do, but it's obviously, it's easier to build something online.
Yeah.
So you've actually done the hard part first.
Yeah.
And I love it. I think you have a jump start on this whole e-commerce DTC thing because you've already built a brand offline.
Yeah, exactly. I think the hardest thing too is like people don't understand how hard it is to build an audience. So like we were lucky to have Dev build an audience of fans and people who wanted to watch all of his content, and then we were able to convert those fans into customers.
So tell me this: how the hell would you be able to do it today? Because I'm sure when Dev built, when you started and when you joined, this was like probably early on when not to say that it was probably easier to build a brand and to gain traction, but today it is impossible.
Yeah. The biggest thing you have to focus on is like making a connection. So like even the ones I've told you about that we're bringing out soon, some e-commerce brands that I'm working on, we have to find a connection. So the connection starts with the branding, like the slogan, but it's like more than just being like, hey, dropshipping.
I don't think so, because as a consumer, I'm hit with so many different things. Like, if you have a nice branding and a nice slogan, I don't care.
Right, but
that's why I think what you've done in the lab originally, where you're connecting it to basketball, you're connecting it to something real, training, camps. I can connect with that because I can go and experience something. That's what I'm saying. I'm not going to connect with it. I don't know. You tell me. But it's very difficult. I can see really nice branding and slogans, but I'm not going to go off and buy something immediately.
Right. So the branding, slogan, and then the story. So the story is the most important part.
Right.
So
I stopped you before you.
Yeah. So it's great. Anytime I build a brand, like story has to come with it. So the name and the branding are the two most important things for me, because visually, I have to connect with you first visually. But then in order to get you long term for the next 5-10 years, the story has to resonate with you.
Right.
So that's where it comes back to. We built this amazing story within the lab, and you guys know the concept of 10,000 hours and working hard and motivation and so much stuff. So it goes outside of basketball. So now I'm trying to apply that same concept we built within the lab, minus basketball, minus sports, into a clothing brand, into like a fitness brand with different names, different branding, but the story needs to resonate.
Yeah.
So that's like when I talk to people about brands, like the branding is so key, but the story, and that's what people are missing. So you have these drop shippers, and you said you find a product, you put it online, you push your Instagram ads, you make your sales.
That was the playbook.
And then that's it. But that's it for them. And then now they go look for another product, and they're just all over the place. Whereas why can't you just create a brand?
Yeah.
And you have one place where all these products are going to be put into, which is what we're doing now. There's a story behind the brand. There's good branding. There's going to be good marketing because we know how to market and build. and that's what it
So
takes.
if I were to summarize, in order to build a DTC company in 2020, you obviously have an amazing product.
Yeah.
Got to focus. I
Have
mean,
to have a good product.
that is like status quo, bar none. Amazing product, amazing branding, aesthetics, and of course, most importantly, having an amazing story around it.
Yeah.
And making sure that you have a story that actually resonates with your end customers.
The story has to connect.
All the other stuff, the logistics, the warehousing, whatever, you can figure that out later.
Doesn't matter.
Except for the end. See, the one thing that I struggle with when it comes to DTC or e-commerce is at the end of the day, I feel like the end, like the last mile, and I think this is a piece that we haven't figured out in the economics of it. I feel like the last mile is where the customer experience is lost. So at the end of the day, e-commerce great, branding great, DTC great, and at the end, some Uber driver is dropping off my Amazon package and it's at my door. It's so unfulfilling, right? It's like the experience is so unfulfilling at the end. You're getting something at your door, and yeah, it could be nice, but it's in a box, and it should be. That piece has not been figured out, and I know the economics haven't been figured out around it, but there's something missing there, and I think the companies that really figure out how to create an end-to-end, unbelievable customer experience is going to create a better connection with customers. Just like food, just like how we order like food off Uber, like, oh, Uber Eats, great. Oh, I got a great meal from I don't know, like a great pizza place, and then it comes in, it's like
random box.
dropped in on my on
the front door.
my floor, and I gotta pick it up. Is something for some reason is missing there? I don't know if you.
So I'll touch on this a little bit, and these guys can relate a little bit, because this is what we're trying to build a brand right now, right? Trying to build, like, let's say, a new clothing brand. And for me, it's always been figuring out literally the end-to-end experience. So we have great branding, great story. They come to the website, it looks beautiful. They check out, they're getting all these emails firing, and you start talking about that missing part.
Yeah, last mile.
So for example, this is fully relates to clothing, but the last mile is when they get the package, is it like Christmas? Or is it not? Is it one or the other? I want to make it like Christmas.
Yes.
So it goes down to the branding of the packaging. So when they get the packaging, is it labeled? Is there a custom box that comes with it? Is there a Ziploc where it's like, holy crap, I'm opening something like really crazy?
Yeah.
Is there a certain smell that comes out of it? So these are things this is the playbook I'm trying to build right now. And we have like 50% of it figured out. I know how to get a really nice product to the customer and make sure when they open it, it's like, oh, wow. It's not just a t-shirt in a box.
Yeah.
It's in a custom, branded bag.
I love it.
And all that stuff.
And I think that's what's going to differentiate, because I think a lot of people who are e-commerce are trying to differentiate themselves or DTC company from Amazon. So what's the difference between buying something online versus buying something on Amazon? And I think that's the piece that I think if you can figure out and you can innovate on and you can make it different, because you're not going to be able to compete on cost with Amazon. They've won.
No,
game is done.
Yeah,
so you can
over.
only really compete on experience.
Yeah.
And if you can buy something online and create that amazing experience, just like you talked about, whether it's thinking about all the senses, you're going to win.
Yeah. So that's the key. That's the playbook I'm trying to build out.
I love it.
And I like how you kept saying that, because I want to understand fully how to build like a massive e-commerce brand and then multiple of them in different markets, different industries. And like you said, how to enhance this experience when they get it. It's like, holy crap, got to show my friend, got to post on Instagram, got to order again. And then when they order again, the end-to-end experience changed.
So look, can we just I find that social media is such a big part of this now.
Yeah.
Is there a way to do this without social media?
To build an e-commerce brand without social media? I don't believe you can do it without social media.
Right.
I would understand how. I'm sure we could figure out a way to do it. But in my experience, I'm trying to think, if you can't use Facebook, you can't use Instagram, Twitter, no ads, unless you're like, The Rock, who doesn't.
Well, the Rock has. What do you mean?
But I'm just saying, like, maybe he was someone like that, but he didn't use social, but he was still that name.
Right.
And they just put out some
Well,
article.
I'll give you a good example. I don't know if you've been to like Restoration Hardware. Restoration Hardware, they have these galleries. They have in LA, your second home. They have it, everywhere, like in North America. Beautiful. If you walk into these Restoration Hardwares, they're like for home furnishing. It looks like you're in like a hotel lobby on every single floor. It's beautiful. Cool. It's amazing. They are like one of the leaders when it comes to online, just like furniture, luxury furniture. You go in like you were inspired. And guess what? They are literally the most Instagrammable brand in the world. and they don't have Instagram.
They don't have Instagram.
They don't have Twitter. I don't think they have Facebook. That's wild. Like, they don't have any of it.
Mm-hmm.
And yet, I think that's the biggest flex in the world. It's the biggest, like, yo, we don't need it.
If they're not using anything, then I need to meet their team because it's a flex and it's amazing.
It's amazing.
Yeah, if they're not running any ads or social, because it's one thing to not run social, but it's another thing if you're not running any ads. No Google ads, no Facebook ads. Like, that would be.
I don't think they are.
That would be amazing.
And by the way, pre-pandemic, like, their stock was going gangbusters. And I actually think it's going to be a huge buy down because I think during the pandemic, places like that where you have an unbelievable, inspiring experience, it's going to come back even more. Like, people will want that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because when everything is fast and you can get at your door, like, people want to go somewhere where you get a really great experience. You want to be inspired. You want things that are delightful, that are aesthetically pleasing. That's why, I would double down on Restoration Hardware. But check them out.
Restoration Hardware out.
Well, you're not gonna be able to check them out on social because they have no social. But go physically to their store and check them out.
I'd be interested to see how many brands are doing what they're doing, if that's the case, and how many are actually successful, because that's like a case study.
I love it.
You know, how do they do it? Obviously, you said the products are probably very unique, very high end. It's a certain customer, but that also goes back to the point of some of these. I think there's always going to be an experience that's needed in terms of having a brick and mortar store.
You think so? Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, like,
I believe it too.
it's just like there's just that feeling of I didn't even know this could look that good. You know what I mean? You walk in for IKEA, perfect example. 100 different showrooms upstairs. But you didn't picture this yellow couch with this whatever red stand, but they put it together and they gave you those ideas. You know, you can't really get that online all the time. You get a touch and feel. So
I agree with you. I don't think you can. I think we're going back to a period where, you know, I think over the last, like, I'd say last decade, we've just been pushing digital. And I'm a digital guy. I'm an innovation guy.
Yeah.
Pushing digital experiences. But at the end of the day, like, all these companies, it's almost like coming and go, like, people are not loyal anymore, right? And so brand is getting out of the equation. I think if you can create more, you know, tangible, tactical experiences, I think it's becoming more important.
That's actually really interesting. I definitely need to check them out, and I'm like interested to see. I'm gonna do a deep dive, and I'm gonna come back to you on that,
please,
and see what I can find about that company, because that's like super interesting to me. And I wonder if there's other brands, like maybe like because I know there's another rival in Southgate for them.
Maybe they have TikTok. I'm not sure actually. Maybe they do. I don't know.
That would make sense for the how big they are.
By the way, you did an amazing episode on TikTok.
Thank you.
And talking about, will TikTok get banned? And I was captivated. I thought it was. I'm fascinated with what's happening with TikTok.
So let's stay on it for a little bit then, since you brought it up. I don't know what's gonna happen with TikTok. No one knows what's gonna happen with TikTok. But if you're looking at all the big influencers,
let me give you a hot take here. I think TikTok is gonna get banned in the United States and in Canada by the end of July, maybe the mid-August.
Okay, so what's the reasoning? Is it the same as what everyone else is saying? Security breaches, the data.
Well, I mean, what's funny is that if you go to China, all the major tech companies are banned there. Facebook and Google, and it's like everything. You know, everything is banned there. And you know, there are some investigations that are happening right now. This is why the U.S. military has never, you know, they're not allowed to use it. This is why Amazon, although I don't know if that was retracted. There was a report earlier that Amazon told their employees to delete TikTok, but I think there's some confusion around if they were supposed to send that email or not. At the end of the day, it goes broader than just the security issues or the data privacy, and there's reports that they are utilizing this information. ByteDance. I don't know how ByteDance is involved. The Chinese government is involved with ByteDance, but whatever. They're probably involved in everything. The Chinese government. I think it's a broader discussion on the U.S.'s position on China.
Yeah.
And I think it's a geopolitical play more than a security privacy play. Because at the end of the day, everyone's watching us. Facebook's watching us. Google's watching us. They're all watching us. Privacy is an illusion. So if you don't want to be tracked, then you shouldn't be on Google. You shouldn't be on Facebook. You shouldn't be on Instagram. And you definitely shouldn't be on TikTok because that algorithm is crazy good. Like they have figured that they've mastered
It's
that
down to the
algorithm,
point, yeah.
right?
Yep.
And so I think it's not just a privacy thing or with TikTok, it's a geopolitical thing. Listen, the fact of the matter is that we are entering into a Cold War. The U.S. is with China. And I don't know what's going to happen in this next election cycle. It's going to be very important. But if we are in a Cold War with China, I'm saying we, like I live in the States, but we're not. But, you know, Canada is very much tied to the U.S.
Very close.
If the U.S. is in a Cold War with China, there's no way TikTok's going to be allowed.
That makes sense. That's like a high-level political take because I'm also interested to see what's going to happen with the next election, whether it gets postponed, whatever happens. But there's been a lot of issues, I would say, or I don't know the best way to pose it because I don't want to get too political, but all the trade sanctions happened with China and US this year. And now I think, like you said, it is like a slow buildup to some other bigger things that are probably in the pipeline. TikTok will maybe be one because it'll affect so many people, but I'm sure there's a lot of other things that are coming. And it's interesting you say that anytime I go to China, everything's banned. You have to have a VPN to use it.
Exactly.
So the way I think about it is like, why wouldn't the US or different countries flip that on them and do something very similar? We're like, no, our apps are banned there, our platforms. Let's do the same thing here, which would cause a lot of. I hope it doesn't happen because anytime I hear the word war in a sentence, it's a little bit scary, even though we're in Canada and knowing what Trump is capable of and all that kind of stuff. But
yeah, I think it's gonna be interesting to see. I think Facebook has. You mentioned this. I think you mentioned this in the pod that Facebook was. They're going to be releasing, or they had Reels, right?
They had Lasso.
Yeah,
they had Lasso.
And there's also Reels.
And now Reels,
and obviously, TikTok is basically, it's Vine on steroids, right?
Yeah.
And so there was, and obviously ByteDance bought Musical.ly, and they put Musical.ly into TikTok. And so, you might see different iterations on it. Who knows what's going to happen? I mean, I think what TikTok has shown, which has been remarkable, is a platform that has actually used machine learning and artificial intelligence to create unbelievable user experiences that are personalized. I think what TikTok has done is it's literally meme culture on steroids. They've basically taken like Drake's Hotline Bling and multiplied that by 1 billion. In the sense that they're taking meme culture, video meme culture, and people are remixing the audio. They're remixing how people do the video. It's what we do already in our group chats on steroids. And I think they've just tapped into something so unbelievable. And that's the reason why it's so ubiquitous. And that's why all the kids
popular.
are using it. It's because it's so shareable. All the content's so shareable. Everything about it. It's crazy.
TikTok is like that unicorn, right? They only come around so often. And that's why I'm interested to see what's going to happen with it, whether it's a different iteration or whether they get through this loophole and they stay alive because, and this can go into another topic where it's like a lot of people are making a living on TikTok right now.
Well, let's be honest. Okay, you're saying a lot of people are making a living on TikTok?
There's a lot of influencers who are on TikTok who aren't big on any other platforms.
Yeah.
So the thing I'll bring up is when they take away something like this, and it's a question I was going to ask you, is it a bigger disruption when TikTok comes into the game or if TikTok leaves the game?
Well, if you think about TikTok in terms of disruption, which I haven't I haven't articulated yet because none of my clients are asking about TikTok and their disruption. It is certainly disruptive. It is something that literally blindsided everybody. And I think people were tracking what was happening with the predecessor to TikTok, which was Tutao, in China, and then obviously Musical.ly, and they kind of combined both of these things to create TikTok. It just kind of came out of nowhere, and of course TikTok is taking away market share from Instagram and Snap for that younger millennial, not even millennial, like Gen Z. I'm late millennial, and I'm an old man on TikTok. But it's certainly been disruptive. But I think just like anything, something can be disruptive and then also temporary at the same time.
Yeah.
So, if TikTok gets banned, to be honest with you, people will find other ways of sharing content and finding new ways. I mean, we did this when Vine shut down. Like, people move to Snap, people move here, there. Like, people are, although people will be pissed and some people have made money off of it, like, most people will find something else to do. I mean, we always do this. We just find other things to do.
Yeah, I think more high level too is just like,
but I don't think that there's like so many people that have created. I mean, I think like anything else, there's a very small percentage of people that have able to monetize off TikTok. And listen, their ad platform is still very, very green. I mean, most people that I talk to, their ad accounts are not even accepted on TikTok yet. So I don't even think TikTok has really explored all the ways that they can monetize off of it. So I think if it went away tomorrow, some people will cry about it, but for the most part, they'll find something else. Or they'll take, for example, the ex founders of Vine or they created Byte and other. So something else will come along.
Yeah, this is actually a question I have, and maybe I don't know if you want to chime in on this. I don't know how you'll do it, but where I want to take it with TikTok being banned is like, we'll go to Vine, for example. I don't know if you used Vine when it was out.
I used Vine. I love Vine.
Oh, so okay.
Honestly, I have no idea. I think Vine was unbelievable. There was like a culture there.
Yeah, Vine was like the one of the best apps when it came out, especially for the 6 seconds. And this is a little bit off topic, but if TikTok gets banned, you're gonna see a lot of the famous creators on TikTok. You'll never hear about them again.
Totally.
And the same thing will happen with Vine. That's kind of like the point I was trying to say is like,
yeah, but who cares?
Well,
I mean, who cares?
If we're thinking about social media and how the world is influenced and like how things are moving, it's not so much that I'm gonna care because like, XYZ influencer.
Okay.
But what I'm trying to say is like, from the influencer's perspective, like what can they do next? And that's what I'm trying to understand. It's like a lot of these guys they don't know how to do YouTube or Instagram. They just know this one app and they're so focused on this one app. Then you have the anomalies like David Dobrik and stuff who can branch out.
Yeah.
And this goes into something. The reason I'm saying this is because it goes into one of the points you wanted to bring up was the individuals are the businesses now.
Yeah. I mean that's definitely something I want to talk about. But I think there's two parts to it. Number one is, before I get to that, like influencers. I mean, this is a topic that I'm not an influencer, so I mean, I'm a very small influencer, a very small niche around disruptive innovation. So I mean, if I think everyone is an influencer in their own sort of respective sort of niches, but people move on, like especially kids, like they'll really love somebody for like 3 months and they'll just move on to somebody else, right? So the speed at which influencers rise and falls is changing very rapidly, right? Mm-hmm. I think what you have seen with influencers that have been very successful is that they're not platform agnostic, right? They are platform agnostic in the sense that they can go anywhere. That's why David Dobrik, he's been good on TikTok, and obviously he translated his YouTube content there. He's good on Instagram, etc. I think if they can play on different platforms, that it makes you stronger.
Yep.
And at the end of the day, actually making a website and actually creating your own destiny on a decentralized platform is probably the best way of actually creating content and owning your audience. Because at the end of the day, if Instagram gets shut down, I mean, like, you're gonna have a lot of like booty chicks like out of business, right? Like, there's gonna be a big problem, right? I thought that there'd be an amazing movie that be created when. This is the premise of the movie. Instagram is gone. Like, they're just gone. Like, Facebook just removed it. It's over. Like nothing. You can't check it. There's nothing. There's no competitors. Gone. And you just think about how many like people that have been flexing on Instagram that have no job anymore. Big booty chicks, guys with huge arms. Gone.
It's true.
It'd be a great movie. Anyways, this and the second point, I'll just summarize it very cleanly. Jay-Z has a great quote. I'm not a business man. I'm a business man. Today, individuals are entities themselves. Individuals are not only brands. They can become huge entities. And to put it very simply, you have the S&P 500. You have all these amazing companies. Netflix, Facebook, Google, Amazon. Someday, over the next 10 years, on that list, you might see Netflix, Amazon, Joe Rogan, Navin. Like, that's what I'm talking about in terms of how individuals can be so powerful. I believe one day you're going to see a one-person billion-dollar business, because the ways to scale has changed. You know, when the Industrial Revolution happened, the way that you created scale was that you created one product, you had an assembly line, you had people working there, and your distribution, warehousing, logistics, like you would scale by the products. And this is when you put things on assembly lines, and we were able to create all this stuff on these assembly lines. Today, the way to build scale, and a lot of people that are doing it, they're creating scale through users, through eyeballs. And this is why you see, you know, guys like Joe Rogan who have an audience and millions of people, millions of eyeballs, where he himself is more powerful than 90%. I mean, I'm throwing out a number. I'm exaggerating, but he has more influence than 90% of the media companies out there, because there's so many people that are listening and tuning in to what he is saying.
Exactly.
Right? It's wild. I mean, you could even translate this to DTC, where you have somebody like Kylie, and you could say what you want about the financials. And I know there's reports that came out. I mean, the fact of the matter is, she sold her company to Cody for $600 million for 49% of the company. So, like, you know, at valuation $1.2 billion. So you can call her a billionaire, whatever she is. She still sold the company for that much. She still made a dent in the beauty industry, building a DTC brand. You look at somebody like Huda Katan, who was in Dubai, influencer, vlogger, you know, creating her own like makeup. It's in Sephora. It's everywhere. This is real, what we're talking about.
Yes.
Individuals are becoming entities. And it's just going to extend even further. And so this is why I think it's so important to create brand equity, because I think it's shifting. You know, back in the day, before the Industrial Revolution started, you would go off and you would like be a butcher, or you would be a fisherman, and you would sell your fish, and it would be Sean's fish. But now we are moving back to that, where now I can sell my fish, but I can also sell eyeballs. I can market. I can sell with no middleman involved.
Yeah,
and I can do it at scale. This is something that has never been able to happen, but because of the internet, because of social and media, we're able to do this. It's unbelievable. And I don't think many organizations are picking up on it.
But that's like the biggest issue, is that I think they don't understand it yet, and that's why I think the most powerful individual over the next 5, 10, 15 years is us.
Exactly.
Is just the influencer, is whatever the word we want to use, that's us.
Creator, you can call it creator.
Yeah, creator's probably better.
Creators, I think, is a better word. And I think there's also multiple ways that people are monetizing. You're seeing it today, where there's all these platforms that are coming out where people are monetizing their content, whether it's through Patreon, through whatever, or Substack, through newsletters, or I can mention OnlyFans. I mean, a lot of people are using it for naked chicks are using
I've heard
it.
of OnlyFans.
But I don't think OnlyFans started out for that.
I don't think it did either.
But yeah, I mean, it's all these platforms are coming up where you can make it. They've just made it dead super easy, so that you can now monetize your platform.
Yeah. I think that's what's amazing about the time we're in, is that you said there's so many different ways to do it. A lot of people don't even know about Patreon or what it can do, or OnlyFans or any other platform. They just know Instagram, Facebook, the main social medias. But if you really do the research and dive out, you can find so many unique ways to monetize and to make money, to start a podcast and be like, okay, it's going to start slow, but in 1 year I may have an audience. I may have something that I can monetize and sell. You know,
and I think it's becoming so much more important today to create brand equity, and that's why I just love what you've been doing with your own brand, and what you've been helping other brands, and doing things like the pod, and creating amazing video content. Like, I love what you've been doing, and even at a very small level, that's what I was at Deloitte for 12 years. It was amazing. I was able to piggyback off their brand equity and sort of build my brand equity too. And what's remarkable is like what I saw was sometimes you'd have these people that would work at these amazing companies and they would create amazing careers within their companies. And so they never created brand equity for themselves. They only created brand equity for their own organizations. Right. And when they left the companies or they left their firms or they were forced out or whatever, they were left, and when they left, nobody knew who they were because they left all the brand equity to their organizations.
Right.
And I think this is going to be a huge rub over the next decade that companies are going to figure out, wait a minute, like, is this person building? This is where a lot of friction is going to happen. Is this person working for me? Are they working for themselves?
Yeah.
Are you building my brand equity? Are they building your brand equity? I mean, you could see this tension in the NBA, right? This is why you see LeBron James creating basically the player empowerment movement. And this is why he can't shut up and dribble, like Laura Ingraham said.
Right.
LeBron has created this movement where now players are not only, creating their own narratives or creating media companies themselves, but they're dictating where they go as well. Exactly. And it's shifting the power from owners from the league to the players. Yeah. Now they command. Now they're becoming billionaires, right? Like LeBron's going to become he's
Absolutely.
on his way to become a billionaire, and his power, his message is becoming so much more powerful than the league or the owners. Like, guys,
whatever he says goes at this point.
So I'm so passionate about this because I feel like this is something that, again, people are not picking up on, and I just think that it's going to be so disruptive to organizations and to brands.
Over the next few years. And I like how you said the LeBron thing because, and I'll use Spencer Dinwiddie as another one who you may know.
By the way, did Spencer Dinwiddie get Corona twice?
I don't know. I don't know what happens. I don't know what these NBA guys are doing.
Holy moly.
I even know today Russell Westbrook said he has it now. So he's waiting 14 days. He's in quarantine. So I don't know what they're up to. That's a whole different topic. But Spencer is like a real, I love following him.
Yeah.
He's doing a lot of moves. He has his own shoe brand. He has a lot of different investments going on. But the most interesting thing was he's trying to take his contract and be able to sell it to fans.
Yeah.
Right. Which I thought was like amazing because he's trying to challenge the status quo of how much money he can make, how he can sell his stuff and go against the NBA. And he's actually like, he's gaining some movement with it. Yeah. I don't know what's going to happen, but again, it just goes back to showing the power of one individual trying to make change in a massive organization.
I think what he's doing is phenomenal. And, just listening to interviews with him and his understanding of his power that he has, even like talking about blockchain and contracts. I mean, it's very impressive because, this is not something that has been traditional. It's never been done in the NBA. It's going to be really interesting to see. Like, I mean, if he was a guy like, for example, Kevin Durant with a little, a lot more clout,
a little more, yeah, exactly.
Right? Like, I'd be really interested to see, how that would go. So I think a guy like Spencer is definitely, blazing a trail. And hopefully the NBA, uses, and this is why I love the NBA, is that they've really been amazing at experimenting with new ways of doing things. Yep. And I hope that they can sort of let this pass and let's see what happens.
Adam Silver's been a good GM and like a good commissioner in that respect. So I am interested to see how he'll move. Yeah, David Stern was great. Recipes, but like Adam Silver, I think is more of a game-changing face for the league.
David Stern was definitely he was the owner's commissioner, where Adam Silver is the players commissioner, right?
Yeah, it's perfect.
Like you see everything that he has done with, for example, when he first got into office. He was dealt with the Steve Ballmer Clipper situation immediately,
right?
And and that was his first big move, and he
dealt with it well.
Not Steve Ballmer. Oh my God,
it was the Clippers guy, right?
Yeah, but Steve Ballmer is the current Clippers owner. The last guy, Donald
Stern, I think, or something like that, or
Sterling.
Yeah.
Anyways, that guy was a huge racist, and that was the first thing that he did, and he cut him off, and it was awesome. And then Steve Ballmer amazingly came in, and then, he's just had so many. Still, Adam Silver has not made a mistake. He's just, dude, the NBA is so powerful. It is so influential that I remember when the coronavirus really was going exponential, and when Rudy Gobert, I don't know if you remember that night. I remember it clearly. We actually, Mo and us, we actually did a pod with one of my friends, Justin, right after it. I turned to my wife that night when Rudy Gobert had corona, when NBA season was suspended.
Yeah.
Donald Trump said that Tom Hanks got corona. Corona. Yo, it like somebody's gonna do a 30 for 30 on that night. It was crazy. But I turned to my wife then and I said, the NBA got suspended. The entire world is gonna get suspended, because the NBA has so much influence culturally that it just moves everything. Not, I mean, I'm exaggerating. It moves everything, but it's so powerful that this is why everything got sort of shut down after that. That was the day that
many people. Yeah.
Every organization started working from home.
Yeah.
Like everybody points to the day like when the NBA got suspended.
They made the first big move.
Adam Silver.
He made the first big move
before Donald Trump.
Yeah.
It was Adam Silver that made the move.
Yeah.
Like Adam Silver should be the president of the United States. We would not be. I mean, the U.S. would not be where it's at right now.
Yeah.
Had, if Adam Silver was there, we would not be where we are today. And this is why I think he's done actually a phenomenal job with designing the bubble, and they're doing all these things to create an environment in the bubble that's safe and all the testing. And I think it's remarkable. Let's see where it ends up, but it's a huge bet. It's a huge risk, but I think it's been remarkable.
I'm interested to see like where it ends up. That was actually my next question for you, is what do you think about the bubble? But more importantly, like with everything that's happening now, and let's talk about just the NBA, because I know we're big basketball fans as well. What do you think is going to happen for next year? Do you think it will be a similar situation where we're in the bubble still? Do you think things will be a little better?
Well, I'm really looking at the NBA. I mean, I think everybody's looking at the NBA as a trendsetter to see what happens next year in terms of events and, where things go. I think in the States right now, where things are at. I mean, even like 2 months ago, I'd be like, yeah, definitely NBA season, fans in the seats. I mean, just right now, like you see, like Florida has like 10,000 cases a day right now, which is crazy. I think you're probably going to see another season where there's no fans in the arenas, and I think the NBA is going to continuously experiment and find new ways of delivering amazing content to their end customers. I don't think they're going to be in a. I don't know. I mean, listen, that's like 8 years away. Like basically, like thinking about the next season. Like I'm still thinking
of it. It's a long time.
We
gotta worry about this.
Let's see what happens with this bubble. Yeah. But I think things will go back where there'll be empty arenas and I'm just excited to see the bubble. One of the things that I'm really excited about is figuring out how they can really create like a virtual reality experience, or like I'd love to be just sitting at home and just watching an NBA game, and like I turn over and I see like Kyrie there. I'm on the bench with like
100%
and Kevin Durant. Like I'm in the huddle. Like I love that. Would be cool.
That's like a next level experience that I hope is coming out soon. Because I know they've tried stuff like that. I don't know if you've seen it. They've tried similar things where you can have a courtside VR experience as a fan. But what you just said in terms of being able to turn left and right, maybe be in the huddle, that's innovation. That's next massive play. I'm sure.
Totally. I had this bet with my friend a number of years ago that, and it didn't play out, that I remember I bet him in 2015 that in 2020 that you would be able to have like player view. So when like somebody walks in, when they have like league fits and like somebody like walks in and like they're strutting on their fashion. I want to be able to follow James Harden from like the fashion runway to the dressing room to the game. Like I don't want to watch anything else. I just want to watch James Harden. And I want to see what he's doing. I want to watch him on the bench. I want to have like a real, like a personalized view of James Harden, and I would pay for that. I would pay
100%.
$5 a month or whatever to have the POV of James Harden, and just have a camera on James Harden the entire time.
That's actually a sick idea.
Yeah.
I've never even thought of that. That's a really good, and that's a good business
POV.
Model. $5 a month is not even $10 a month. I'd pay for that.
Totally. Now you're creating. Because let's be honest with you. Let's be honest. The way that the NBA creates revenue, it's either you go to the arena, which 95% of their audience has no way of going to arena. They don't live in the city. We live in Edmonton. We're not going to an arena. Or you watch it on TV and there's like digital rights, or there's rights, and we're consuming the content in so many ways. But they haven't really directly monetized me yet, Sean Kanungo. I think the way of directly monetizing me is providing ultimate access to their players, which, like I said before, players is like driving everything. So yeah, that would be my innovative business model for them: is subscription service to not the NBA. I want a subscription service to Steph Curry. I want a subscription.
Multiple players. Yeah.
I get a bundle. Maybe I get like Clay.
This is like a next level business model you're actually talking about. I don't know if we should be putting this out on the podcast or not.
Well, listen, if Adam Silver wants to work with me, I'm happy to do that, though.
No, seriously, yeah. That idea is actually like very good, because you're putting it into perspective in terms of what we actually want as a consumer. That is all I want. I want to see what this guy does pregame.
Exactly.
What is he eating? What's he stretching like? What's happening in the shoot arounds, all the workouts. Can I hear his voice?
Totally.
That's what I've talked this about with Dev a lot.
Dude, this is why League fits. This is why people are so interested in the NBA's. This is why they move culture.
The culture.
When they walk through the building and you're seeing what they're wearing, like that, people talk about that more than the game.
Yeah.
People care about the players. People care about the culture, the fashion. And this is what other sports have not realized. And this is why the NBA is so powerful. But you were saying, you were talking to Dev about, this.
Yeah, no, we were just talking about if the players could be mic'd up. I would pay separately just for that.
100%.
Just to hear them trash talk each other, like, how MJ used to do back in there, whatever they're saying. If we could just put headphones on and hear that.
Totally.
And we pay for that and it just swears and everything.
Totally.
It's a whole other user experience.
Totally. So. Well, listen, I don't want to listen. The time is running, man. The time is running.
I know the time is short. So what we'll do is instead of doing another 50 minutes, we'll wrap it.
Yes.
And we'll put some of these other topics that we have into a future segment that we can come back and do.
Let's do it.
Because there's Gen Z, there's entrepreneurship, there's a lot of stuff that we want to talk about that I would love to hear your take on. And I want to say something that's actually very interesting.
Okay.
At the beginning of the podcast, before we started the podcast, you said, people really want to hear, and the people, they do want to hear me because it's my podcast. But me, as I sit back and I listen, and this is what I like having guests on, and it goes back to why it's called a fly on the wall, which I've told you before, is I love hearing the take of that person in the chair. So I'm giving the audience the chance to get to know you.
Yeah.
And I actually think that you provided immense value on the podcast. So I'm excited to hear what the feedback is going to be.
Well, listen, what I was saying to the people who, if you've gone this far in the podcast, or you're watching this on YouTube or wherever the hell else, I know that you're following Navin. You don't care about me. 99% of your followers, they care about you. They don't give a shit about me. And so that's what I was saying. Like, sometimes you people interviewing somebody and their story and whatever, like, they don't care about me. They care about you and your content. This is your thing. And at the end of the day, if I can provide some value that is interesting or insightful, then that's great. But at the end of the day, they also want to hear you. They want to hear your thoughts. This is you. Like, do you know why I listen to Howard Stern? I don't listen to Howard Stern for like his guests. Listen to Howard Stern for him. I don't listen to Bill Simmons because of his guests. I listen to Bill Simmons for him. And so I think we have to really understand who our audience is. Mm-hmm. And your audience is here for you and your insights. So, if I can add something, a little bit to it, then that's great.
That's all it is, man. And I want to say thank you again for doing the podcast, doing the segment, allowing me to come into your office / theater / home for the day.
Absolutely.
So I appreciate it. Before we end the podcast, let everyone know where to follow you, because I'm sure if they made it this far, they will want to check you out.
Yeah, well, if you've come this far, subscribe to this guy on iTunes or wherever else. Leave a rating, a review. It would help. Go on YouTube and subscribe. Hit the button. Right here. Hit the button right here. You can follow me anywhere. I'm at Sean Kanungo everywhere. I think LinkedIn is probably the best place. This is where I'm posting content and my platform. But yeah, thank you for having me, man.
You guys heard it from the man himself. Make sure you follow up, leave that 5-star review. Till next time, stay in the lab. Just keep building and growing.